This guy has always seemed like such a downer. He only has a high school graduation and didn't go to college because he was raised by a single parent since high school. That's kind of problematic, isn't it? He claims to work in the food industry these days, although it's only a ramen store. Who is he attempting to win over? I was invited to these mixers as a draw, and I had this classmate who always looks down on me. I sighed to myself, thinking, this is it once more. But the gorgeous models at the party came running to me when one of the staff members identified me and told them who I really was. My name is Adam. I began working in a neighboring retro ramen restaurant after I graduated from high school, and I've remained there ever since. My mother had been urging me to attend college at the time, but I dismissed her advice, telling her I had other plans. As a child of a single mom, I was aware that we lacked the funds for college. I happened to find a part-time job at the ramen store, but it was a fun place to work because of the great staff. Naturally, I took great pride in the ramen store, but when people inquired what I did for a living, I would just reply that I was in the food sector. It's simpler to put it that way because I've worked there for a long time and have held a variety of positions. That response suffices for the majority of folks, but one person would constantly make fun of me. James was that man. They were high school classmates. James and I didn't really get along. In fact, we didn't really talk much. James frequently received reprimands from teachers, colored his hair vivid colors, and wore his uniform carelessly. Although gregarious, he gave off the impression of being too familiar. He openly discussed hanging out with other girls and making out with other people's partners despite having a girlfriend. When we were in the same class, he would frequently make students from neighboring schools wait for him or go out on dates with different girls across town. He was also well known for his womanizing. I can count on one hand how many chats we had at one point. I didn't even have his email address. However, I met James at a hip bar one day. Hey, is that Adam? I was first taken aback by the stranger who started speaking to me out of the blue. The man who was speaking to me was well-groomed and dressed in high-end labels. I said, perplexed at first because I hadn't noticed him. What? You can't recall. James, it's me. He smiled at me. That's when I at last recalled this extremely familiar classmate. Are you Adam, correct? Whoa, you really haven't changed. Funny as hell. He continued to tap my shoulder as though he was amused by something. After high school, James attended a prestigious institution and is currently employed by a large advertising agency. He announced with pride that he was having a mixer with several gorgeous girls in the bar. It looks like he's still leading a lavish lifestyle. Adam, why are you in this place? This is where I work. Really? And now, what are you doing? I am employed in the food industry, was my standard response. James then erupted into laughter. You're still employed at that ramen restaurant. His abrupt chuckle upset me a little, but it didn't seem like a good idea to argue with him. James had constantly made fun of me. I answered, yes, that is correct. James then let out a louder chuckle and exclaimed, really? Did you not forego college? Are you still only employed at the ramen shop? Man, that's hilarious. An adult employed at a ramen restaurant? That is extremely humorous. No, it's not the ramen shop alone. His constant laughing was starting to irritate me, so I tried to reprimand him, but he interrupted me with, it's okay. It's okay. Man, don't bother bragging that you work in the food industry. This is the most I've laughed in a long time. I ran out of energy to correct James as he wiped tears from the corners of his eyes. James took his phone out of his pocket just as I was about to walk away. Send me your contact details. Now that I'm wealthy beyond belief, I'll treat you to some delicious food at some point. I became a little irritated by his mocking tone. Not really, though. I can also invite a ton of adorable gals. Come on, please. His phone screen displayed images of him eating at a restaurant and posing in front of appetizing-looking dishes with unidentified women. Like this one or this girl. Eating delicious cuisine with attractive girls, isn't it great? The food appeared appetizing in the pictures. To be honest, I had no interest in dating. but I had wanted to explore the popular restaurants he frequented. I was therefore tempted. James seemed to know a lot of great places, some that I had never heard of. It's instructive for someone in the food sector to visit a variety of eateries. Well, let's grab some food now. James obviously thought of me as his backup at these mixers. I may as well take advantage of him too, since that's how he wants to use me. If our schedules align, I answered, giving him my contact details. I kept getting invited to mixers after that. James appeared to be a social butterfly, throwing get-togethers nearly every week. The location was rarely the same, in addition to the girls changing every time. Despite the fact that his research was done just for mixers, his research skills amazed me. James was throwing another mixer tonight. Considering how often he'd stressed, I've gathered lovely models. He was obviously trying to get near to them when he said, "You have to come." James's regular technique was to make fun of me to emphasize how wealthy and successful he was. Of course it irritated me, but having a meaningful conversation with him wasn't worth it. Reluctantly, I agreed to go even though I had no interest in modeling, since I wanted to check out the venue tonight. The mixer this evening took place at a chic eatery that specializes in French fusion cuisine. Our meeting point was meant to be at the door. James declared right away that he was going after Mia tonight. I'm placing all of my money on tonight. Please don't get in my way. I'm genuinely going to win Mia over. He gave me a cold look, but I didn't know who Mia was. Adam, that's the reason I treated myself to this fancy restaurant. You are invited. Please read the room. He wouldn't believe me even if I told him it was just the restaurant and the food that captivated me. With a non-committal nod, I let James get all thrilled on his own. As an influencer, Mia has 1 million followers, and she's adorable. She also has a fantastic body. I have to go grab her. James was swooning over her, and I was too stunned to reply. I managed to end the chat as the start time drew near, and we went inside the restaurant. 3 women were waiting in the private room we were shown. They were all really gorgeous as models. James laughed. Sorry to keep you waiting. Nice to meet you. The most stunning woman grinned and waved to us. I learned that she went by Mia. It became evident throughout the introductions why James was so keen to win her over. We raised a glass and started the mixer with James's well-practiced lead. Following the introductions, James immediately started boasting. I noted the meal and took pictures of it as usual. This guy just keeps taking pictures of the food. He's such a nerd. Fighting the need to apologize, James said, "Sorry about that," and then he went on with his regular denigration of me. Disregarding him, I carried on sampling the food and recording my thoughts. I would respond when addressed, but James spent much of the time chatting with the women. So, this place is really well liked, right? How did you obtain a booking? James leaned forward eagerly at Mia's words. I actually know who owns this place. Maintains secrecy about it. James abruptly lowered his voice. With overly enthusiastic praise, the women said, "Wow, that's amazing." James, feeling good about himself, carried on talking about how he knew the owner. He was talking a lot for someone who claimed it was a secret. I was sighing to myself when I heard someone say, "Hey, Adam," and I looked up. Mia had shifted, somehow, and was seated directly in front of me. Have we met somewhere before? My heart skipped a beat, the way she said it feeling like a pickup line. It was nerve-wracking to hear from such a lovely woman, even though I knew it wasn't. You look familiar, Adam. Well, I don't believe so. I wouldn't have forgotten if I had met someone as lovely as her. I was going to respond, there must be a mistake, when James loudly interjected, Not at all. Since he lacks any uniqueness, you most likely simply see faces similar to his everywhere. James chuckled, saying that a plain guy like him would never meet someone like you, Mia. Even the women appeared surprised by his overtly condescending remarks, even though they were legally true. It was pitiful that he was decreasing his own position instead of raising it while remaining unaware of it. Then James launched into yet another tirade of dull boasting. James went on to brag, recently, I worked with a celebrity, bringing up celebrities and comedians that we frequently see on TV. I'll introduce you to them sometime. I didn't care, so I concentrated on taking pictures of the new dishes and writing down my ideas. Then Mia talked to me once more. Adam, are you on social media? No, not really. As I cocked my head in response to what seemed like a pointless question, she said, I noticed you were taking lots of pictures. Her question about whether I was planning to post them online finally made sense to me. Oh no, I work in the food industry. I saw James smirk as soon as I said that. Don't try to show off, it's just a ramen shop. The women, who had been having a good time, gave me a startled expression. They appeared to be saying, it's unbelievable. This guy has always been so depressing, even in high school. Because he only has a high school graduation and comes from a single-parent household. He chose not to attend college. These days, isn't that problematic? And ever since he began as a part-time employee, he has been employed at a ramen store. He continues to work there even at the age of nearly 30. An adult working at a ramen store is so ridiculous. It makes sense why he tries to improve the sentence by adding food industry. James persisted, despite my want to clarify that it wasn't about bragging. Normally, I only treat girls, but since Adam is struggling, I'll give him an exemption. I mean, I'm not exactly an affluent gal. To me, there's no use in treating someone like him. After all, I owe the underprivileged some charity as an elite. Isn't the way I treated him really kind? The women gave feigned smiles in return. It was obvious that they were delayed, but James, possibly due to inebriation, failed to observe. He was setting me down and drinking happily. He most likely believed he was enhancing his own reputation in his thoughts. I was going to sigh when Mia interrupted. She brightly replied, Maybe I should upload this to social media too, attempting to lighten the tense situation. Taking out her phone, she took a picture of the dish that was still uneaten. The other women started snapping photos of their meals as well, as if they were supposed to. After taking a couple shots, Mia gracefully lifted a mouthful of food to her lips. After the first taste, she grinned and said, Delicious. But it could be a bit more colorful. I had to respond to her teasing remark. What do you mean? I asked eagerly, but Mia smiled kindly at me. Dishes that appear excellent in pictures are more popular these days. Taste is vital, of course, but eye-catching colors definitely draw the attention. Thus, a little green here would be ideal, she said, indicating a section of the dish. I see. The appearance really does matter. Although I didn't think of it as photogenic, I believe I had been careful of that. A simple tweak, like switching up the sauce or garnish, can have a big impact. The garnish is visible. In addition, you might want to consider the plates you use, Mia said, providing me with specific guidance that I never would have considered on my own. James, obviously annoyed that I was chatting to Mia, smashed his glass on the table as I was taking notes. Read the room, Adam. You are a mere employee of a ramen shop pretending to be knowledgeable about food. For ramen, color is irrelevant. James's agitated tone caused the tension in the room to rise. Adam, you're destroying the dinner. Please go now. I had never before received such open criticism for taking notes and pictures. James clicked his tongue angrily and gave me a scowl. Just leave. Are you not aware that you are ruining the atmosphere? I forced myself not to retort that James was the one depressing everyone. But we're still in the middle of the course. I shot back. I would have liked more of Mia's guidance. James looked intent on getting rid of me. You pitiful loser, shut up. People like you are not designed for this environment. Simply leave. You're destroying the cuisine. The mood grew chilly as he dismissively waved his hand. Things would only get worse if we stayed any longer. I was receiving helpful advice, but I was forced to go. I made the decision to return later by myself. I got up and started gathering my things. Aha! You miserable loser, go home and cook some ramen. James chuckled while I made my way to the exit. The waiter with the tray stared at me as the next dish was being presented. Mr. Thompson, are you leaving? He spoke to me. James's stupid voice reverberated through the silent room before I could respond. Mr. Thompson, How come? Was that what I heard? Am I intoxicated? James chuckled. You have to be mistaken, friend. This guy works at a ramen shop. The server seems perplexed. Excuse me, but aren't you Mr. Thompson of Thompson International? That's correct. I nodded. What? James bellowed. Before you depart, the owner would like to say hello. Please give me a moment to wait. I nodded again as the waiter asked in a courteous manner. I had an incident that led to me being referred to as Mr. Thompson. One day, after a few years of employment at the ramen store, a foreigner entered. William was our server, and he was raving about our ramen to everyone he spoke to. Then he asked if we would join him, saying that this flavor would be a hit if we brought it to the States. The 60-plus owner declined, stating that it was not practicable. William, however, was adamant and began visiting our store every day. William was always enthusiastic, even in the face of their continuing impasse. I eventually began speaking to him in straightforward English. My English was shamefully bad when I looked back. William never made fun of me, though. He would have serious chats with me, using gestures and bad Japanese. I had bigger dreams after speaking with William, and I had finally discovered what I really wanted to achieve. Up until that point, I had given up on dreams and accepted a life of monotony. I asked the proprietor if I could bring the ramen back to America because I wanted to change that. He advised me not to at first, but eventually gave in after I persisted. That was the start of my hectic days. I studied English in my free time and trained to replicate the flavor of ramen to perfection. I made multiple study visits to America and lived a frugal lifestyle to save money for the business. After making the decision to do so, it took me a few years to open our first store in the United States. We gradually increased our sales and became a well-liked location that was consistently full despite a variety of problems and trial and error. As a result, we were highlighted in renowned publications, on the internet, and even in Japanese media. Isn't Thompson International the company that runs that hugely popular ramen shop in America? Mia inquired, seemingly having suddenly recalled. That's correct, of course. You know a lot of things. I visited the place in Hawaii. I recall being shocked to see that the owner was Japanese after seeing a picture there. That's why you appeared familiar, Mia said with a kind grin. That had to be from a visit-related forced photo shoot. Even though I don't like photos, I had to give in to their pressure. The idea of it being on display at the store surprised me and made me blush. So is this restaurant today also yours? Yes, in a way. I went back to Japan after being successful with the ramen shops in America. I then started opening restaurants and bars. We are currently in a unique restaurant that caters to affluent customers. I arrived to assess the quality of the cuisine, atmosphere, and service. However, James's tantrum interrupted my review. As I was thinking about this, Kane, the owner, who is a tall, attractive man with platinum blonde hair, came over to talk to us. William, who worked in the ramen store, introduced me to this wonderful man. The majority of the upscale eateries I planned are run by him. He doesn't speak flawless Japanese, therefore we constantly communicate in English. I could hear women saying, "Wow," from behind. They're conversing in English. Incredible. Following a quick update and friendly hello, Kane inquired, "Are you leaving already?" I decided it would be better to leave after James kicked me out and Kane had a lot on his plate. As I announced that I was going to be leaving, surprised voices could be heard behind me. "What? Let's discuss more, Adam." "Yes, I hardly had time to speak with you." I was abruptly pushed back to my seat by two women who grabbed my arms. Before they understood I knew Kane, they had seemed uninterested in me. I was amused by their abrupt attitude shift and made the decision to be honest with them, so as not to give them false hope. "I'm sorry, but Kane is already married, so I can't introduce you to him," I had planned on saying. The two women, however, retorted with a smile that they already knew that. It seems that they had noticed the ring gleaming on Kane's finger quite fast. "We want to talk to you." "Adam, what? Me?" The two women started asking me questions all of a sudden. I was taken aback by their enthusiasm, especially because I wasn't there to find a girlfriend. James attempted to speak with the women throughout their interrogation, but they ignored him. Oh, really? Interesting. James eventually gave up trying to respond to their flurry of inquiries. I kept making notes about the food that was being served. Mia, who had primarily been watching, piped out when the main course was served. Can I take a picture? I wasn't used to receiving such attention from a gorgeous woman, so her radiant grin made my heart skip a beat. Since Mia had stated that she was an influencer, it is likely that she shared photos of food online. It might help if Mia promotes our eatery. Yes, of course. However, I'm not particularly good at it. Give your phone to me, please. When I extended my hand, Mia gave me a start, but then she laughed a little. More than just the food, I meant a photo with you. Ha. I felt awkward at the sudden request for a selfie after realizing my error. But is that all right? I didn't like having my picture taken. I had to grant Mia her request. Mia moved to sit next to me when I agreed. Instead of asking someone else to take the photo, as I had expected, she set up her phone's front camera to get a photograph of us with the food. She was compelled to sit near. When she clicked the shutter, her lovely smile and my clumsy smile appeared on the tiny screen. I'm not comfortable taking pictures, but when Mia asked if I could publish this on social media, I couldn't say no. Hi, Mia. Come along for the photo too. In an attempt to get the picture, James pushed in from the side. I recalled that at first he had shown interest in Mia. I started to back away, but Mia called out to James. I apologize, but I'll pass on taking a picture with you because I don't like people who constantly boast and denigrate others. How come? Even so, even with his typical bravado, James was flatly rejected and was unable to move on. He slouched his shoulders and gave me a spiteful yet irritated stare. Adam, how did you get to be president? James didn't seem so much upset at me as sulky. His failure was his own fault, yet both of us had exploited others for our own gain. Thanks to you, James, I said. His brow wrinkled in perplexity. His mockery of me forced me to prove myself, even though I had always accepted a routine life. I put a lot of effort into showing everyone what I was capable of, even in the terrible times in America. I am somewhat indebted to you. James growled sulkily. Shut up. You've always had aptitude and intelligence. You can aspire higher on your own and don't need to put other people down. That seems like ridicule coming from a winner like you. Oh no. Watch out. I'll also go big. Frustrated, James took a swig from his drink. For the first time, the unpleasant atmosphere from earlier had lifted and the supper felt good. Since then, Mia and I have maintained regular contact. Her guidance was really accurate and beneficial. Soon, Mia and I were not only messaging each other more often, but we were also having dinner together more often. Unable to give up on Mia, James would periodically contact her, but frequently lamented not hearing back. Maya responded to my innocuous question about it with a brilliant smile. I blocked him because I was scared of his overt intentions. Her gorgeous smile was so frightening that all I could do was chuckle a little. Mia has great taste and was naturally responsive to trends as a model. I made improvements to my restaurant's menu based on her advice, and young people soon began to enjoy it. As an influencer, Mia would publish pictures of the restaurants she enjoyed on social media. Whenever she talked about my restaurants, they would become so well known that it was difficult to acquire reservations. Mia and I had gotten together professionally, but we had also become partners in our personal lives. We developed a close bond by encouraging and occasionally reprimanding one another. I used to believe that I couldn't accomplish much, although it stung to be made fun of. I could have secretly thought that I deserved to be despised, but the need to disprove those who disparaged me is what has allowed me to get to this point. I discovered that it's critical to see every circumstance as an opportunity rather than wallowing in my emotions. I will never be able to thank you enough for introducing me to such amazing people. I want to carry on having an optimistic outlook and live a life of thankfulness.